Hello, Cosmic Family, and welcome. I'm Charlie, and today I'm going to talk about something very serious. It's a very dark, serious subject. So someone asked me to comment on the movie The Sound of Freedom, and so I wanted to speak a little bit about this subject. It is, as I mentioned, a very intense, dark subject, so if this is very triggering for you, and you can't watch, that's okay. I'll see you on the next one. For those of you who are sticking around, there's a lot to say about this, and I don't think I'm going to get everything I want to say in this particular video. But whether you are familiar with the movie or not, I haven't watched it, but I am familiar with the subject matter, the story it's based on, and some of the details around the story. And what's interesting is that even in this day and age, with as much proof as there is of this kind of activity going on and this kind of awful, despicable, disgusting, and just truly awful treatment of children throughout the world, there's still people out there who call the events surrounding this film conspiracy theories. And there are two types of people who do this. One are the types of people who are so naive and living in such a ignorance, the sin of ignorance, like Kierkegaard said. It's literally a sin of ignorance, where they're in this fictional bubble of security that they literally have no clue that things like this are happening. And then there are people who are part of this in very, very, very powerful decisions, and they don't want people to know about it. All right, they want people to look the other way. All right, and so these people in power use these kinds of sinful, ignorant people to keep this veil over people's eyes. And this film sort of lifted some of that veil, but of course they've been fighting back. And part of why some people who are actually generally well-meaning people is because of the cognitive dissonance that can arise from when you try to think and imagine the kinds of awful things that are happening. Your brain shuts off and it can't process it. That's why a lot of people, even in so-called spiritual communities, go into spiritual bypassing, because they just don't want to know the awful things that have happened. And oddly enough, some of these types of people are people who were abused physically and SA'd as children. And part of it is because if we were to work through that trauma, it's very intense. We will be dragged into very, very low vibrational dark places. But in order to heal, we have to face it. And in order for planet Earth to heal and to ascend in any way, this is something that has to come to the surface. What's really awful about this situation, but also a testament to what's happening vibrationally, because I sat with the 7 and I asked them about this. I asked, what's going on? Like, why is this such an awful, sickening thing happening on planet Earth? Because it really is the most awful things that we can do, is hurt children. And this is something interesting they shared with me. Sorry, I just went off on a tangent, but basically what they shared with me is that, and this is something that they've been sharing with me more and more, about the false light. And what they said is there is as more people are starting to sort of wake up and see, what's going on, things aren't as we are told they are. There's something else happening here. And what they've told me is that the false light, part of why it's called the false light, is because it makes you feel that you're moving towards freedom and the light, which is what a lot of what's happening in the West and also parts of the US, where they are promising this idea of freedom. But in that process, and especially freedom for children, but in that process, they're actually demoralizing the culture. And what they're doing is they're allowing for certain things to be normalized, because once they're normalized, and people think this is normal, then certain actions can be carried out against children, and people think it's okay, and they'll be asleep about it, like a lot of people are. They'll think it's normal. And they said why they do this is because children have the purest energy. They're already free. They don't need us to set them free. They are free. All they need is protection and love. Protection and love so they can thrive. But the false light This is what the false light does. It spreads lies. And if you were to hear these people who do these awful things to children, they'll say it's because, and it makes me sick to say it, but I say it because I'm not here to lie to people or give you comforting lies so then you can go on and be like, oh, I'm gonna lift up to the fifth dimension and high vibration, blah, 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 when there are certain things happening in the world and we're just asleep to them. We can't be asleep to them. They're happening and there are things that we can do about it. So I share this with you because going back to some of the things that these people, when they speak about children, and they are aware of this energy that children carry, all right, and they want to siphon it off of them, all right. And this is very, very interesting because this is exactly what these beings, all right, we've talked about these beings before, what they do to all humans, all right. This is what they want. They want to siphon off energy, all right? And they want to consume it for themselves. And children are coming straight from source, purest energy possible, right? And that's what they want to do. And that's what they are doing. And so, of course, as a mother to a very young child, I'm especially sensitive to this topic. But not just because of that, but because when I work with people and we work on uplifting our energy, when we work on healing our bodies and lining up with source and our purpose, in that process, the more that our third eye opens and the more that we see what's going on in the reality, the less we live in denial about it, all right? And we also become better at processing what's happening and being there with it. You know you've evolved enough where you can sit with difficult situations and begin to ask yourself constructive and productive questions, right? Like, what can I do about it? What's something that I can contribute to the exposure of the false light and to the movement towards the true light, right? And when we are sort of still doing the work, it is hard to sit with these things, right? But I know that the time is now to speak openly about these things and to start unfolding them, because I know that, like me, a lot of you watching this, not only are you concerned with your own sort of ascension, upliftment, and experiencing the goodness of life, but you also care about the environment around you. And you want to make sure that others, especially innocent beings, are getting to experience the fullness that this planet has to offer, and to become aware of the energies that try to interfere with that. And in the process, figure out constructive ways in which we can not only save ourselves, so to speak, but help save others. I know this is such a massive thing, right? But when we focus our minds and when we really align with source, and the fullness of our spirit is sort of fully enveloped in this mission, then incredible things can happen. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. There's more I wanted to say, and the last bit of what I wanted to say was that the reason why this is done is not just to consume the energy of others, and especially young innocent children, but to also demoralize a culture so it can be moved in a specific direction. And this is precisely what's happening. And we have to be aware of it, because we have to see when certain things are being introduced into our existence in day-to-day life that are compromising not just our physical well-being, but also our spiritual well-being. So with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. I went on different tangents. It's a very heavy subject, and it is something that it is a massive part of our culture, unfortunately. But it is something that we can make positive movement towards. And I believe this film is that. And I believe that the pressure and the backlash that it's getting, it's another testament that it's triggered enough of certain types of people that they don't want to see the truth of it come out. But the time is now for a change to happen and shifts to happen. And we all have the power to make a change, to bring about some kind of shift, even if it's small enough. Thank you so much for plugging in. I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to connecting with you again. Be blessed.